Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, world reactions are pouring in after the U.S. military launched strikes on nuclear facilities in Iran. And afterward, Iran launched a barrage of missiles hitting multiple cities in Israel. Details on President Trump's address after the strikes and his comments about a, quote, regime change on Truth Social. Two guests join us to break down just how significant the U.S. strikes on Iran were and what they mean for the region and the world. How an American surgeon saved lives under enemy fire in Vietnam. Vital Signs host Brendan Fallon shares highlights from his interview with U.S. military veteran and cardiothoracic surgeon Alan Davies. And thousands of people gathered in New York City to walk through the night on a shared mission to end suicide and shed light on the importance of mental health.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Tiffany Meyer. National and global reactions are coming in after Washington strikes on Iran's nuclear sites. NTD's international correspondent, Arian Pazdar, has what congressional and international leaders are saying.
The U.S. has now taken action to alleviate that threat.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says it has been long clear that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, but Starmer adds that now is the time to de-escalate.
Stabilize the region and get the parties back around the table to negotiate.
French President Emmanuel Macron echoes the sentiment, saying Iran can't have a nuclear weapon and that it's time to de-escalate the situation.
Nous appelons tous et toutes.
I have called everyone to return to dialogue through diplomacy on nuclear and ballistic missiles.
Congressional lawmakers are also weighing in, such as Republican Congressman Thomas Massie.
3 bombings to neutralize Iran may turn out to be the 2025 version of 2 weeks to slow the spread.
He added that President Trump campaigned on ending 2 conflicts rather than starting a third one.
What happens if this drags on between Israel and Tel Aviv gets pummeled by Iran? Is President Trump going to say we're going to sit by and not do anything in that instance?
And Democratic Congressman Jim Himes criticized the fact that he didn't know anything about the attacks before they happened.
I learned about this strike last night on Twitter, which, as you point out, is an uncomfortable thing for the ranking member of the Intelligence Committee.
The Pentagon on Sunday explained that almost nobody in Washington knew either the time or the details of the operation. A general explained that it was a surprise attack meant to overwhelm the enemy. Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
And just in a new message from President Trump moments ago, he wrote on Truth Social, quote, "It's not politically correct to use the term regime change," but added if the current Iranian regime can't improve, quote, "why wouldn't there be a regime change?" This after he addressed the nation last night following U.S. military strikes on multiple nuclear facilities in Iran. Hours later, Iran launched a barrage of missiles hitting multiple cities across Israel. NTD's Jason Perry has the details.
The United States military struck 3 key nuclear sites in Iran on Saturday. President Trump addressed the nation afterward.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
On Sunday, the U.S. Chief of Staff, General Kane, said the U.S. used multiple deception techniques during the operation, including having some of the B-2 bombers that took off from the United States fly west, while the others flew east to Iran.
Iran's fighters did not fly, and it appears that Iran's surface-to-air missile systems did not see us. Throughout the mission, we retained the element of surprise.
Satellite imagery showed before and after pictures of the U.S. strikes on Iran's heavily fortified nuclear sites that were buried deep underground. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi responded to the strikes.
The warmongering and lawless administration in Washington is solely and fully responsible for the dangerous consequences and far-reaching implications of its act of aggression.
However, Trump said on Truth Social that any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu thanked the U.S. for the strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities and said this about Trump.
His leadership today has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond to a future of prosperity and peace.
However, just hours after the strikes, Iran launched a barrage of missiles hitting multiple cities across Israel. Israeli authorities said at least 16 people were injured at 3 different sites. Meanwhile, Israeli troops continue to battle the Iran-backed Hamas terrorist group in the Gaza Strip. On Sunday, Israel said they recovered the bodies of 3 more hostages from the territory. 50 hostages are still believed to be held in the Gaza Strip, less than half of whom are believed to still be alive. Jason Perry, NTD News.
A suspected gunman was killed outside a church in a Detroit suburb. 1 man was injured, a security guard on the scene. The gunman opened fire at Crosspoint Community Church in the city of Wayne. He first drove his Ford F-150 truck into the building. The security guard who was injured reportedly killed the suspected gunman after a church member ran the suspect over with a vehicle. At some point, the security guard was shot in the leg. Around 150 people had been attending the church service, but no one else was harmed. Video posted online shows church members ducking and running. 3 people were found dead after tornadoes spun through North Dakota overnight Friday into Saturday. First responders are still searching for victims. 9 tornadoes were reported in eastern North Dakota. An area more than 300 miles long was hit with winds that reached speeds between 70 and 106 miles per hour. In the city of Enderlin, 2 people were discovered dead at one residence, and a 3rd person was found dead elsewhere in the city. High winds also blew a dozen train cars off their tracks. Baseball-sized hail was reported across multiple states, while heavy rain caused flash flooding. President Trump leaves the G7 early amid rising Middle East tensions. The Supreme Court weighs in on cross-sex procedures for minors, and Border Patrol sees a dramatic shift at the southern border. NTD's Dana Monahan has your White House week in review.
President Trump attended the G7 summit in Canada, leaving early due to escalating Middle East tensions. Aboard Air Force One, Trump said he was looking for something better than a ceasefire between Israel and Iran.
And then a real end, not a ceasefire, an end.
While there, Trump and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer finalized a trade deal reached between the 2 allies last month.
The relationship that we have is fantastic, so I just want to congratulate you.
The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 this week to uphold Tennessee's ban on cross-sex procedures and puberty blockers for minors.
It's a huge victory for America's children, and it's obviously something this administration believes strongly in.
New illegal border crossing numbers are in. In May, Border Patrol released 0 migrants into the U.S., a drop from more than 62,000 in the same month last year.
The efforts by President Trump to stop the illegal immigrant invasion and secure the border in this short amount of time represent one of the greatest achievements by a presidential administration in the history of our great country.
Sparring over the so-called Big Beautiful Bill continued this week. Senator Elizabeth Warren called it another effort by Republicans to hand over the nation to billionaires.
It cuts access to health care for millions of Americans, for babies.
Simply put, the One Big Beautiful Bill is a massive win for middle-class Americans.
The Navy announced it met this year's recruiting goal 3 months ahead of schedule.
To our newest sailors, welcome to the fleet, and thank you. Your courage makes it all possible.
President Trump signed an executive order to keep TikTok running in the U.S. for another 90 days with the aim of bringing the social media platform under American ownership. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Extreme heat affecting almost 200 million people is expected to bring record-breaking temperatures. It starts today and is predicted to be at its most intense on Tuesday. Forecasters say a heat dome is moving eastward from the Great Lakes region. It's expected to bring 99-degree temperatures to New York City by Tuesday. The New York City mayor warned conditions could be life-threatening if not prepared. Farther south, Washington, D.C. could see 99-degree temperatures as early as Monday. Intense heat is expected from Boston to the Carolinas. A heat dome makes hot air in a region hotter, trapping the air before it can cool down. It remains in place until a cold front moves in. Things are expected to cool down by Thursday. Officials say the best way to stay safe is to stay hydrated and take breaks from being outside in the heat. Coming up, two guests join us to break down just how significant the U.S. strikes on Iran were and what they mean for the region and the world. And details on how an American surgeon saved lives during one of the Vietnam War's most intense battles. Vital Signs host Brendan Fallon shares highlights from his interview with U.S. military veteran and cardiothoracic surgeon Alan Davies. That and more in just a minute here on NTD News.
With almost 4 decades in the spotlight, Cindy Crawford has never lost her stunning glow. With her gorgeous, age-defying skin, US Weekly says whatever she's doing, it's clearly working. How does her skin still look firm, smooth, and youthful at 59? It's meaningful beauty. And now, with new advanced formulas, it's better than ever, delivering our age-defying ingredients even deeper into the skin to fight wrinkles where they begin. Just wait until you see the difference meaningful beauty can make for you.
Instant hydration, instant plumping. My skin looks amazing. What I'm most proud of is over 5 million women have trusted Meaningful Beauty, and they're getting great results. And I get that feedback from them in airports, supermarkets, walking down the street, and I love it.
And today, we are celebrating 20 years of Meaningful Beauty with a brand new offer you don't want to miss. You can get the entire advanced Meaningful Beauty system with all 5 age-defying super treatments. And when you order today, you'll receive our Targeted Treatment Duo, a $128 value free. Introducing the Wrinkle Smoothing Capsules to target crow's feet, forehead lines, and lines around your mouth. Plus, you'll also get the new Skin Renewing Facial Tool with heat, massage, and red light to boost the absorption of the wrinkle smoothing capsules and reduce the appearance of puffiness. The Skin Renewing Facial Tool and the Wrinkle Smoothing Capsules together create Meaningful Beauty's amazing Targeted Treatment Duo.
This plus this equals incredible results.
Get all this, a $300 value for just $49.95. But you must act quickly. Results guaranteed or your money back.
If you haven't tried Meaningful Beauty yet, this new offer is something you don't want to miss.
This special offer is not available in any store, so don't wait. Scan the code, call the number below, or go to meaningfulbeauty.com right now.
You're so right for me, and I'm right for you. I love the things you do, like sweet tasting wine. Your lips are so divine. Your loving turns me on. My lonely days are gone. That's why I'm never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you go, babe. I'm never gonna let you go. No, no, never gonna let you go.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. As the world reacts to Operation Midnight Hammer, just how significant were the U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities? What's next in terms of diplomacy? And what's the security implications in the homeland? Joining us now to discuss our two guests, Brandon Weichert, author of The Shadow War, Iran's Quest for Supremacy, and senior national security editor at The National Interest, and Ruthie Bloom, former advisor at the Office of Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and senior contributing editor at JNS. Thank you both so much for being here. Brandon, first, give us the historical context of this operation. Just how significant was this, given there were no leaks to the media, 125 U.S. aircraft involved, including the 7 B-2s, which carried out the strikes in Iran, and others as decoy?
I was going to say, don't forget the decoys. This is deception is the art of war, and so in that way, President Trump has accomplished that which he's always said, which is he doesn't like to telegraph military operations. So this is a huge kudos to the Trump team for managing that. Those strikes themselves are historic in the scale and the audacity. I think it took less time to drop these bombs in Iran than it takes for the Papa John's near the Pentagon to drop off pizzas for the people there working on these airstrikes. Now, the interesting thing is, according to my sources, and this is, battle damage assessments right now are not really very clear, but from what I can tell, it's looking like Fordo, which is the very hardened enrichment facility, Fordo is not destroyed. Fordo, the term that I've been told from my sources is degraded, but not destroyed. And this is why I think the Israeli government or Netanyahu this morning was saying that we're going to need to go in again and reserve the right to restrike. So this was very complex, very impressive, but ultimately it did not destroy all of the targets. So now that leaves us with the question of what next?
And Ruthie, your thoughts on the historical significance of this U.S. operation, but also what this means to Israelis?
Oh, Israelis are elated. And I have to point out that includes Israelis who oppose Prime Minister Netanyahu. Everybody in Israel, except I would say the extreme far left, has always thought that the Iranian nuclear facilities had to be taken out. But there was fear that in doing so, it would unleash this huge I would say retaliation that would kill hundreds of thousands of Israelis. And we see that didn't happen. But also, it is true that the job is not finished, and Israel is continuing to strike inside Iran at various facilities, and not only nuclear ones, ballistic missile launchers, ballistic missiles themselves, sites that produce those missiles. And as we saw last night after this amazing operation, Iran did launch several missiles into Israeli cities and towns. But Israelis are prepared for that. They're happy to stay in bomb shelters if it means eliminating this threat.
And Brandon, when it comes to what's next, Vice President J.D. Vance saying on NBC's Meet the Press that the U.S. is not at war with Iran, rather the war is with Iran's nuclear program. You have Defense Secretary Hegseth saying this scope was intentionally limited when asked if the U.S. was prepared for a protracted war. How are you reading this? Are we at war, or was this to prevent a war?
At a very basic definition, we are at war. Certainly the Israelis feel like they're at war, and we are now joining them in this conflict. So by definition, we are at war with the Islamic Republic of Iran, which has also been in a de facto state of war with us, but this is kind of making it official now. I think it's interesting as Vice President Vance is saying this and Mr. Hegseth is saying these things. The president about an hour ago, Trump, not tweeted, but posted on Truth Social that he supports regime change. So I think this is going to send some people in his own administration through sort of a cognitive loop here, because everything that I had heard up until this strike was if we go in, it's going to be very limited, a pinprick. Then you find out we didn't get everything we thought we would, which is understandable. This is a complex military operation. And now you have the president himself sort of negating what his own people are saying he's open to regime change. So in my opinion, Tiffany, this thing is just getting started, and we have to now worry about particularly what the Iranians are going to do in the Strait of Hormuz. And I would just add one other thing. The Iranians are not doing this on their own. Our friends in Russia are coordinating with them, and this is why the Iranians have not kinetically struck back, but are instead targeting geoeconomic bases to try to undermine the American economy by going after the oil.
I want to get to that, but first, Ruthie, as you were mentioning earlier, following the U.S. strikes, Iran did vow retaliation. It sent that barrage of missiles towards Israel. What are you expecting to see in the Middle East region? Could we see regime change?
Well, yes, and it's not the goal of the Israeli government, though it would be the icing on the cake if it did happen. And interestingly, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that he basically indicated that any false moves on Iran's part would be met with severe consequences. And I assume he means the Strait of Hormuz. And President Trump did not say that America is going to cause regime change. He said the Iranian people would like it. Make Iran great again, is what he said. And I think Israel believes the same. It's not that the goal is to change the regime, but to enable the Iranian people to do so. And by the way, to say Israel has been at war, that's correct, but war was imposed on Israel. And the first shot, so to speak, aside from all the wars launched against Israel since 1948, was on October 7th, 2023, when Hamas invaded and perpetrated the massacre. And since then, and that was an Iranian proxy, and all of Iran's proxies have been attacking Israel. So this launch by Israel was a preemptive defensive strike.
And Brandon, when it comes to negotiations, President Trump is saying that Iran now has two options, peace or tragedy. Do you see Iran coming to the negotiating table now?
No, I think negotiations are off. They're going to hit the Strait of Hormuz at some point. They're already scrambling the GPS systems of many of the tankers that go through there. At that point, I'm sure the U.S. Navy will have to then expand its footprint and clear out the Iranian naval presence, which will then, of course, provoke a counter response. We're climbing up that escalation ladder pretty quickly. And so whether or not regime change is the stated goal, we are inching toward that every day that the Iranians don't come to the table, because both President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu are in a position where how are they going to live with a regime that's clearly not going to back down? They've already said they're not going to give up any nuclear capabilities. So what are we going to keep going in and I mean, this is sort of the natural evolution of the situation. It may not be the conscious or cognizant policy, but this is sort of where the Middle East takes us if we're not careful, which is once you initiate conflict, it's quicksand. You can't get out.
And Ruthie, speaking of the Strait of Hormuz, it's significant as around 20% of the world's oil passes through. Now, that would deal a blow to China, which is the biggest buyer of sanctioned Iranian oil. What would diplomacy look like here?
Well, I think President Trump has made it clear that what diplomacy basically looks like, in his view, is the enemy raises the white flag and then we can talk. In other words, victory over the enemy. There are good guys and bad guys, and that's very clear in this case. And diplomacy doesn't mean diplomacy for diplomacy's sake, as many on the left have been engaged in for decades. And we see that with Israelis as well. On the contrary, diplomacy is we dictate the terms to you. And if you raise the white flag, then we can talk and we can make peace.
And Brandon, zooming out a bit here, how is China viewing all of this, especially considering two of the B-2s were sent to Guam as decoys? Was that a message to China?
I'm sure it was a message to the Chinese. Unfortunately, they're not getting it. They continue to expand their footprint in the South China Sea near the Philippines, as well as around and beyond now Taiwan and Japan. So this is going to continue to escalate slowly on their end. The key thing here to understand is Iran feeds a lot of oil and natural gas to China. So if what I'm saying is correct, and I believe it is based on my sources in Russia, and I have a lot in Russia, the Russians are telling the Iranians to cut off the energy supplies by going into the Strait of Hormuz. That's not only going to hurt the global market, that's specifically going to hurt China. So what I think Putin is doing is he's the master chess player here. He wants to see the gas and oil prices skyrocket to feed the Russian war machine. He wants to see the Americans unable to resupply and support Ukraine. And also he wants to put China in its place, right? By going after their oil supplies, he forces China to then rely more heavily on Russia, and he basically makes China the kind of the junior partner in the Russo-Chinese alliance, which until recently the perception, as you know, Tiffany, was China's the dominant partner and Russia's sort of the go-along guy. So Putin is really wily here, flipping the tables on everybody.
And Ruthie, of course, the world is on heightened alert following the U.S. operation there. You have UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Saturday. He branded the U.S. strikes on Iran as, quote, a dangerous escalation in a region already on edge and a direct threat to international peace and security. Now, Russia, China, and Pakistan are calling for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in the Middle East. Given, everything at stake here, what are you anticipating to see from world powers in response to this?
Well, first of all, Guterres, I wouldn't take anything he says seriously or literally, because everything he has said has been wrong or with ill intent, and certainly towards Israel. What I see happening is, I hate the word escalation in this case, because sometimes you have to escalate in order to eliminate the threat. In fact, all the escalation that has taken place has been from Iran and its proxies for nearly 2 years now, and longer, of course, but I'm talking about since the October 7th massacre. There has been, all Hamas had to do, all Hezbollah in Lebanon had to do, all the Houthis have to do is lay down their arms and stop their aggression, and then there would be no escalation. You cannot call a defensive act some kind of aggressive escalation. I'm sorry.
And Brandon, here at home, the FBI, DHS, and law enforcement agencies in major U.S. cities are all on high alert over Iranian sleeper cells in the U.S. What can we expect to see inside the U.S.?
Well, I have a source close to Shin Bet, and they texted me right afterwards over Signal app. They texted me right after the bombings began last night and said that everybody in Europe and America better be on heightened alert, because there is a very credible threat that Islamist head choppers are going to be running, roughshod over the American heartland and, soft targets in Europe. And I think given the way Hezbollah has entrenched itself throughout the West, both through legal means and illegal means, I think it's probably safe to say that the alert is higher than it's ever been. And I hope that the FBI, which has spent its time chasing grandmas after January 6th, actually is capable now of actually protecting the American heartland from real, enemies, head chopping enemies.
A lot to watch for here for sure. Brandon Weichert, Ruthie Bloom, thank you both so much.
Nice to meet you, Ruthie.
Nice to meet you, Ruthie. Thank you. Nice to meet you too. Thank you for having me.
Coming up, details on how an American surgeon saved lives during one of the Vietnam War's most intense battles. Vital Signs host Brandon Fallon shares highlights from his interview with U.S. military veteran and cardiothoracic surgeon Alan Davies. And still to come, 2 hikers hit by lightning get a daring rescue via helicopter from the top of a mountain. See how it played out in a series of dramatic photos after this quick break.
Inflation is still driving up home repair costs. How are millions of homeowners saving money on unexpected bills? With Choice Home Warranty.
Is a new refrigerator in your budget? How about a replacement AC unit? I'm Ty Pennington. For many families, these costs can be catastrophic. That's why I'm a Choice Home Warranty customer. They've saved millions of homeowners from unexpected repair bills with an affordable monthly plan that provides peace of mind and helps avoid surprise expenses. Call now to protect your home with Choice Home Warranty and get your first month free.
Choice Home Warranty offers plans that cover repair or replacement on up to 25 essential home systems and appliances. Protect your budget with a customizable Choice Home Warranty.
We've been a Choice Home Warranty customer for almost 9 years.
And we couldn't be more happy with their service that we get from Choice Home Warranty.
Unexpected home repairs can quickly eat into your savings. It wastes time and fills you with stress. Choice Home Warranty is the most trusted name in home warranty. Call now to lock in a low monthly rate.
Choice Home Warranty has a nationwide network of more than 25,000 trusted technicians. When I have a breakdown, they always have the right contractor to get me taken care of quickly. I just pay a low monthly fee and they pay for the covered repairs.
Choice Home Warranty has been a great company to work with, and they've taken care of us. I would suggest anybody who lives in a home not to be in a home without him.
It's time to protect your hard-earned money with an affordable plan from Choice Home Warranty. Call right now for the peace of mind you and your family deserve. Call Choice Home Warranty now.
Protect your home and your wallet with Choice Home Warranty. Call now to get a free quote, your first month free, and save $10 a month for the first year. Call 800-983-4585, 800-983-4585, or go to choicehome.com.
Go to bed. I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat. It always came back.
Okay, here we go, throw it! Yeah.
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Nice.
Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Next, an unusual history about how an American surgeon saved lives during one of the Vietnam War's most intense battles. NTD's Don Ma spoke earlier with Vital Signs host Brendan Fallon. He shared highlights from his interview with U.S. military veteran and cardiothoracic surgeon Alan Davies. Let's dive in.
The Vietnam War and the practice of medical surgery, it's a huge topic in Hollywood. There's been so many shows about this. MASH was a long-running series that was set in Korea, but it was actually based on the surgery and everything that was taking place in Vietnam. And I had the opportunity to speak to a surgeon who was there in Vietnam and experiencing the tragedy of that, and also the challenges and also the opportunities for innovation that war provided. And his name is Lieutenant Colonel Alan Davies. And the first soundbite we'll play here is when he basically just come out of his residency in surgery and lands there in Da Nang, 1967, to perform his duty as a Marine performing surgery.
All right.
From the time you arrived in Vietnam, what was the first thing you encountered?
Well, I touched down in Da Nang and I got a chopper ride the next day down to the 40 miles south to the surgical hospital, the second surge, which was on a bluff overlooking the South China Sea. And as soon as I arrived at the second surgical hospital, it was around noon, somebody, one of the medics came up to me and said, Davies, you're the chest guy. They need you in OR 3 right now. I proceeded to OR 3 of the hospital, which was pretty dungy, grungy-looking buildings. After my changing into my scrubs, I went into the OR, and there were two surgeons there frantically trying to stop the bleeding from the chest of a young Vietnamese girl who was really a Montagnard, which was the people of the Central Highlands. And this girl had sustained a wound of the left upper chest, and the two surgeons who were working on her were unable to stop the bleeding. I suggested that they pack the wound and we opened the chest through a formal incision, and they grudgingly complied. I was able to get the chest open and get control of the root of the lung and stop the bleeding with several clamps, and then was able to remove the part of the lung that was injured. We were able to transfuse the young lady, and the operation was very successful.
Wow, that's a very interesting story there. And apparently U.S. military surgeons actually serviced Vietnam civilians during the war. That's very interesting.
Yeah, this is a little known fact in the kind of representation we see about the Vietnam War. And not just Vietnamese civilians, they were also performing surgery, saving the lives of Viet Cong, the U.S. Marine service hospitals that were there. And this led to a situation in some cases where Viet Cong would even, due to the treatment they'd received, they would then provide intelligence to the U.S. forces that was beneficial to their operations there.
And I believe you brought another clip for us. Would you like to introduce that one?
Sure. So the Battle of Khe Sanh, it's a really famous battle in the Vietnam War, a turning point in the war. This is beginning of 1968. And this is a battle that Dr. Alan Davies got called into. So the situation was such that the Marines were basically in a fishbowl and were being shot at like fish in a barrel from the Viet Cong, which were had the elevated ground. And here, Lieutenant Colonel Davies describes the situation that he encountered when he arrived there.
There were about 4 quad 50s in my eyesight that were firing, also artillery and mortars going off. We were taking some incoming at the time, and the war was really going on, but we had 40 guys that needed to be taken care of, and we were able to do some preliminary triage, and we had 17 or 18 of them had lower extremity wounds, which could be taken care of pretty easily. But we had several chest injuries and abdominal injuries that required immediate care. And we were obviously in the boonies and didn't have an awful lot to go with. I had to do 3 operations out in the open with a litter on horses, with the sun as the operating room light, and thank God we had an excellent anesthesiologist who could put 2 of these guys to sleep, and we were able to open their abdomen and sew up the 4 or so wounds in the intestine of one boy, and a stomach wound in another boy, and a colon wound in the third, and actually get them off the makeshift horse operating table, and was able to get chest tubes into the boys that had chests full of blood, and we were able to get their lungs re-expanded and out of danger. Luckily, when we arrived there, we had about 100 units of blood that were packed in dry ice that we were able to use on these guys. But while we were doing this, there was a lot of action going on, and the next day, a couple of dust-off choppers appeared unannounced, and we were able to evacuate most of those guys into 2 dust-offs. They were accompanied by 11 or 12 gunships, and we were able to get the walking wounded away from the harm's way. But nobody came to pick us up, so we were still there, and they said that it was going to get hot again.
Wow, that's incredible. And in the full interview, he actually also talked about how he managed to stave off PTSD, right? Maybe you can talk to us about that just briefly.
Sure. Like you can imagine, under that situation, you're performing surgery, and you got bombs going off around you, you got bullets flying, and he said that one of the main things that he attributes to getting through that experience was his exquisite level of training. So he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew what he had to do to save lives in that situation. So I guess he had that reward alongside the tragedy of everything he was experiencing. He was saving lives, and that really offset the kind of stress that he was under.
Okay, well, Brandon, I'm very intrigued. And for anyone who would like to see the full interview, you can go to Vital Signs on Epoch TV. So interview on surgery under fire in Vietnam. Go to your web browser and enter ept.ms/war-surgery.
Once a year, thousands of people gather together to walk through the night on a shared mission to end suicide and shed light on the importance of mental health. NTD's Stephania Cox was there.
A hand to hold, a voice of hope, a cherished connection honored, and a message for those who are struggling. The world is a better place with you in it.
I walk for my daughter Gaia Rose. Gaia passed in 2019, and One child is one child too many. One human is one human too many.
The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention's annual Out of the Darkness Overnight Walk brings people together with a shared mission to move toward a world without suicide.
It's a bittersweet day for sure, but we're in a huge community of people that are suffering and know people that have suffered, and everybody here has one mission, which is to do the right thing, to spread awareness, and that's all we can do.
366 teams, more than 1,800 participants, and 2,400 donations. From dusk to dawn, they walk. What's it like to walk through the night?
Oh, it's really difficult. I think it was after midnight snack last year, it really hit me how delirious I felt. But it's also so nice, especially seeing the sunrise at the end with everyone. It's just so moving.
The more than 16-mile round-trip route begins and ends on the Hudson River by the Intrepid Museum. The AFSP has hosted overnight walks for 30 years, and participants say connections they make lay the foundation for healing.
There's one gentleman that I was helping earlier, and he made a point to come back and point me out, and he hugged me. And he said, "Thank you, Linda." And I said, "I didn't do anything." But just being here, I guess, helped him, and that's what I think is the best part.
Crew, volunteers, donors, and sponsors all take part in and support a shared understanding. While suicide is a leading cause of death, it is preventable.
It's been 20 years since we've had my brother-in-law here, and to see AFSP have this many people, almost 2,000 people coming out to walk today, is really inspiring. So the more I talk about it and we all have these conversations, the more comfortable people will be about talking about their own mental health, their family's mental health, and hopefully one day we don't have to have this walk anymore because we're not losing anybody to suicide.
Please, just keep your loved ones close, and you never know when they need some support, so be there for them as much as you can.
Participants this year raised more than $2.5 million for suicide prevention. The funds to go toward research, education, and resources.
People need to know what to do when they or someone they care about is struggling, how to help them, and all that information is on our website too at afsp.org.
The Foundation's message resounding: that we can save lives and bring hope to those affected by suicide.
I saw some great things out on that 16 miles. People coming together, helping each other. Really inspiring stuff.
Step by step, year by year, cheer by cheer.
Coming up, 2 hikers hit by lightning get a daring rescue via helicopter from the top of a mountain. See how it played out in a series of dramatic photos. And the dog days of summer arrived at National Park as Bruce the Bat Dog made his MLB debut. Find out how the Good Boys debut went and what's next for the most valuable pupper. That's coming up.
Big things are happening at Mathis Home. Their everyday low prices are now even better. Shop Price Drop Alerts and save up to 25% off store-wide. Shop the latest looks in dining rooms, all at big savings. This set is a great deal, perfect for family get-togethers. You get the table and 4 side chairs for just $7.99 in your choice of finishes. They have over 100 dining sets in stock with fast and free delivery. Look for Price Drop Alert tags and save now at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
I'm Amy Grant, and I want to talk to you from my heart about the heart. I would have been the last person on the list to say this woman has a problem with her heart. So no, there was nothing about my life that said, you have a ticking time bomb in your chest. But I did. I wound up in the office of a cardiologist because I was there with my husband. And at the tail end of that, the cardiologist looked at me and said, I want to see you. No one was more surprised than I was to learn I was living with a rare heart condition. He said, Amy, this condition, you'll be fine, and then catastrophic. A few months later, I had open heart surgery that saved my life. And I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. That's why I'm asking you to join me and become a monthly donor to the American Heart Association. Please call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough get the next person trained in CPR, and get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. If this could happen to me, it could happen to anybody. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, but your support can save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card and we'll send you this special t-shirt you can wear to show you're part of a community of monthly donors working to help save more lives like mine. I'm grateful for the American Heart Association. Their research gave me more time to do the things I love with the people I love. So listen to your heart. I'm here today because I did.
Please call or go online to helpheart.org. Become a monthly donor, and for a limited time only, your first month's gift will be matched.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha 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 ha.
See, Smokey thinks I'm funny.
Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Crews mount up for a daring mountaintop rescue in the middle of the night. They came to aid 2 hikers injured after getting hit by lightning. Here's the story.
High in the Colorado evening sky, this helicopter hurries to the summit of Torrey's Peak, while a team on the ground makes the ascent on foot, a series of photos catching the journey. Up on the mountain, a pair of hikers hurt by a lightning strike. The 2 had lost their way during a storm, KUSA reports, so they called for help and were on the phone with the Alpine rescue team when they were hit.
Next thing he knew, there was an extremely loud commotion, and he heard the phone drop, he heard screaming, and probably 5 or 10 seconds later, somebody got back on the phone and said, "We've been struck by lightning."
With the other hiker unresponsive, crews then rushing to the scene. In the dead of night, flying to first pluck the critical patient from the peak, then hoisting the second hiker to safety around midnight. Both hikers are expected to be okay and got to thank their heroes.
It was really great to sort of have that full circle closure and be able to speak to somebody that we saved. He was extremely thankful.
Let's talk about a couple that's getting their adrenaline rush in another way, riding a roller coaster over and over and over to the tune of 1,500 trips around the track last season, according to KTIV.
And this year we're trying to do 20 a day.
Roller coaster riding retirees Tom and Margaret Woogazer are racking up runs for their ultimate goal, 2,000 trips this season on their favorite ride, the Legend at Arnold's Park in Iowa, spending every day making their way around the attraction and building a following in the process.
When they walk through the gates, everybody's waving at them, everybody's, "Tom, Margaret!" So like they've gotten their own fan base here.
The thrill-seeking seniors have already accumulated 600 runs this year in their race to get to 2,000.
We just saw the summer solstice on Friday, the longest day of the year. In Scandinavian countries, they celebrate this time of year with flowers, food, and dancing on the backdrop of a sun that never seems to set. In New York City, the Northern tradition has taken root in Lower Manhattan, and folks came together to soak in the sun and have fun. Take a look.
This is like the tradition is to bind these crowns for Midsummer, so we're just assisting here in for everyone to teach them how to do it. We do it every year. It's so much fun, yeah.
I work for Bonbon, which is a Swedish candy company here in New York City. We sell primarily Swedish candy to all of New York. I'm half Swedish, so I grew up coming here as a child and throughout my youth and growing up with my dad being from Sweden. So this is a really fun event for me because it really connects me back to my family back in Sweden, even though I'm not able to be there with them. It's a really nice community event to be with a bunch of other Swedish people and just celebrate Swedish Midsummer.
The Swedish Midsummer, it's like one of the biggest traditions of Sweden, and we're so happy to be here. Glad midsommar.
Floral crowns, maypole dances, live music performances, and Scandinavian delicacies. The festival burst onto the scene at Rockefeller Park on the shore of the Hudson River. Co-presented by Battery Park City Authority and the General Consulate of Sweden, this vibrant annual tradition adding another spark of vibrancy to New York City's cultural heart for nearly 30 years. Well, the significance of midsummer in Scandinavian countries is dedicated to cherishing the region's short summer season. The holiday cheer and feeling of appreciation remains beyond boundaries. Swedish expatriates honoring their cultural heritage and history and spreading that joy to various locations across the world. A breakthrough for marine conservation. Scientists at the California Academy of Sciences in San Francisco are successfully spawning and raising critically endangered sunflower sea stars in captivity. It's an effort that could help restore the species in the wild. Here's a closer look.
Sunflower sea stars were once decimated by sea star wasting disease. They lost more than 90% of their population in just a decade. After years of research, biologists have learned how to breed them. They are now building up captive populations for future reintroduction along California's coast.
So the sunflower starfish is actually incredibly important. They were recently listed as critically endangered along the California coast by the ICUN list. That means that there's barely any that you would find in the California coast, where you used to find them all over the place. So we collaborated with Alaska Sea Life Center in Seward, Alaska. We went up there where they have over 45 adult individuals, and we were able to successfully spawn them.
3 fully mature stars were recently brought from Alaska. They are now on public display at the Academy's Steinhardt Aquarium. Visitors can witness these giant predators, with some growing up to 3 feet across.
And we have, as you can see, a ton of larvae. So we are growing these up from free-floating larvae to tiny settled starfish to much larger juvenile starfish.
These sea stars are not just captivating to look at. They play a vital role in controlling sea urchin populations. These urchins threaten California's kelp forests, which are a crucial carbon sink and biodiversity hotspot.
Those purple urchins normally would get eaten by Pycnopodia or sunflower starfish, as they eat other echinoderms or starfish and urchins. But because of their decline after the sea star wasting disease multiple years ago, the purple urchins population has mass produced and is decimating our kelp forest.
3 other California aquariums are also now caring for sunflower sea stars. This year, at least 4 were spotted off the Mendocino coast. It's a hopeful sign of their natural return.
Moving from sea creatures to miniature trees, Brooklyn Botanic Garden is celebrating the 100th anniversary of its bonsai collection. The collection is one of the oldest and largest public bonsai exhibitions around the world. Here's more. Bonsai is an art that originated in China and further developed in Japan. In Japanese, the word bonsai means tray planting. The special technique is used to grow mini trees in small containers. It traces back to 700 AD, over 1,300 years ago. Here in Brooklyn's Botanic Garden, an extensive collection is on display. The garden's president said the special expo is designed to celebrate horticulture, art, design, and patience. Visitors can enjoy live music and even attend bonsai-themed workshops. Something to note, Brooklyn Botanic Garden is listed on New York City's Cultural Pass program. So if you live in New York, check out their website for free admissions every month. The special expo will open until later in October. A historic town in northern Turkey is home to centuries-old Ottoman architecture and living traditions. Among them is blacksmithing, thanks to UNESCO's preservation efforts. We take a look at one locksmith who's been helping preserve the town's centuries-old craftsmanship and cultural heritage.
Hussein has been swinging hammers and shaping iron for 46 years. He builds every metal component that a wooden door needs, such as locks, hinges, and door knockers. He crafts them exactly as they were centuries ago.
This place dates back to 1796. For the past 230 years, apprentices and masters were all trained here in the same shop. And that's the unique aspect of blacksmithing here. We're deeply familiar with the old ways.
Preserving the old ways gained new momentum in Safranbolu when, in 1994, UNESCO recognized the town as a World Heritage Site due to its well-preserved Ottoman-era architecture and traditional lifestyle.
The metal work of the old houses and historical buildings of the town is done in this very workshop you see. Since we can produce the same items, UNESCO chose us and we began working on official restoration projects.
Known locally as the UNESCO locksmith, Hussein says these restoration projects are more than just preserving buildings. They also safeguard cultural traditions, such as gender-specific door knockers, that are crafted to produce distinct sounds.
If a man came to the house, he would knock with the male knocker. If a woman came, she would use the female one. Inside the house, whoever matched the gender of the knocker would open the door.
The Old Town preserves many historic buildings with over 1,000 registered historical artifacts that include mansions, tombs, mosques, and Turkish baths. The 3,000-year Safranbolu is located in Turkey's Black Sea region and was historically an important caravan stop connecting trade routes from Istanbul and the Black Sea to the east. Today, the city may not be a significant trade center anymore, but it is providing traditional crafts to the whole country.
People still want the same traditional assembly, not factory-made, painted, or synthetic. So we send these authentic handcrafted pieces to many places across Turkey.
NTD News, Turkey.
The newest MVP at the Washington Nationals isn't a player, but rather the pupper, Bruce the Bat Dog. That's when the dog, Days of Summer, arrived at Nationals Park. After working his tail off, Bruce the Bat Dog was called up from the AAA Rochester Red Wings and made his Major League debut, where he scored a bat retrieval gig with the Washington Nationals. The 21-month-old golden retriever fetched a bat during the ceremony last Saturday. While the Nationals lost to Marlins, he won over the crowd's hearts. Bruce sported a bandana with MLA debut patch on it. Well, he put on a show by taking his time retrieving the bat, getting plenty of cheers from the crowd. He spent about 50 minutes on the field before the ceremony, but didn't work during the actual game. Bruce the Bat Dog is also helping to raise money for Rochester's Veterans Outreach Center and Honor Flight of Rochester. Fresh off his MLB debut, Bruce the Bat Dog will be back in action on June 26th. Catch him at the Parks as Rochester Red Wings face the Syracuse Mets. And that's all for today's news. For round-the-clock coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Good night.